I thought I'd record a class today. Today's going to be a coordination class, so get your brains ready. A few things you might need before you get started is a couple blocks or a pillow or something to rest your head on, just so that your neck isn't crunching down, and another block or a ball or just something to rest your knee on when we're on our sides. Obviously you need your mat, and you can feel free to put some music on too. Okay, so we'll make a start. We're going to bring our feet hip width apart like we always do. Nice and weight, even on those feet. Knees are soft. Pull the body tall. Chest is open. Head is nice and tall, but not letting it pull forward. We'll start with our pelvis. So a few pelvic tilts, rocking backwards and forwards, lengthening that spine, releasing any tension from our lower backs from the days before. So once you find roughly your neutral pelvis, about halfway in between, keep that spine tall, chest open, bring the head back a little bit just so it's not pulling forward. I'm going to look side to side. Nice and slow. I'm going to look far to one side, take a deep breath in. Exhale, relax further into that stretch, making sure the upper body's not twisting. And then we'll do the same on the other side. You pull all the way over. Deep breath in. Exhale, relax into that stretch a bit further, making sure the rest of the body isn't turning. And center. I'm going to go ear to shoulder. Again, keeping those shoulders relaxed, making sure they're not coming up to your ears. You may feel you've got one side that's a lot tighter than the other, or they may feel just about even. Same again, make sure you're not leaning in the body. You want it just to be that neck. We don't have to pull down into this stretch. Our heads are so heavy, we can just let them hang. And center. And take the chin tight onto the chest, really tucking it in as tight as you can. Taking a deep breath into the ribs. Exhale, we're going to look up to the ceiling, keeping those shoulders down, pulling the spine tall. And then back down onto your chest. And then back up to the ceiling. And center. Roll those shoulders backwards to begin with. We're going to do a little arm routine in a minute. I want you to remember this because we're going to need this later in the class. So, both arms up, thumbs facing up. We're going to start with our right arm, making sure the pelvis isn't twisting. We want the pelvis to be facing forward. We're going to go open, close, bow and arrow, so pull it back like you're firing a bow and arrow. Fire it, up to the ceiling, down. Take that right arm on top, keep those shoulders down. You're going to row to your right, row to your left, and then arms out. Do the same on the left side. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, left hand on top, row to your left, row to your right, and back up. Keep going with that. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, arm on top, row to your right, row to your left, and back up. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, left hand on top, row left, row right. Keep going. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire, up, down, right on top, row right, row left, and again. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire, up, down, left on top, row left, row right. Last set on both sides. I'm not going to call it this time. I want you to be able to do it, to be able to learn it. And again. And up. Bring those arms down. Well done. Remember that for later. We're going to lean side to side. Keep those knees soft as you're leaning. Let that head hang. We may as well get that extra neck stretch while we're here. And then take the arm up as we go. Laterally leaning, leaning laterally, leaning side to side. It's quite nice for our spine. It's not a movement we do often in our daily life. We do a lot of forwards, a little bit of backwards, but not much side to side. And back up. Okay, we're going to warm up a little bit now. Take one arm up. We're going to crunch on the stomach to tap elbow to knee. You don't actually have to touch because sometimes you do it too quickly and you give yourself a dead leg. So don't worry about doing it too quick or touching itself. It's that movement. Then we're going to pull up tall. Your foot comes hip width apart. This arm shoots up. Then you're going to swoosh your arms and do the same on the other side. Tap. Up, swoosh, tap. Up, swoosh, tap. Keep going with that. Keeping that control. Focusing on bringing those feet hip width apart. You're crunching in your stomach, you're getting that heart rate rising just a little bit. Keep that control. Careful not to whack your arm on your leg or your leg on your arm. That's it. Keep that breath flowing. If you want to speed it up, feel free. Keep those arms swooping. Full range of movement. I need this to warm me up. The studio's pretty cold today. That's it. Keep going. A few more. Keep that control. Okay, I'm going to come on to our balance now. So, keeping those feet hip width apart, and a little bit of balance. Stand on one leg, supporting knee soft, body is tall. I'm going to tap the foot in front. I'm going to tap it in, wide, in, back, in. Wide, in, front, in, wide, in, back, in. Keep going with that. So although the toe is tapping, we're not putting any weight into it, it's just a gentle tap. Focusing on the supporting leg, that's the leg doing all the hard work. That knee is soft and the body is still tall, we're not kind of curved over doing it like this. We're using that control. Always back into the middle, and we go wide in between front and back. So should start to feel it in this supporting leg, depending on how strong it is. With all of this class, just get to your 7 or 8 on your scale, whatever that is. If you feel you want to do more than what I'm doing, feel free to pause me, carry on with the move until you're ready to move on to the next one. I won't be offended. And we'll swap over. Take that foot, plant the opposite foot, keep that body tall and that chest open, and start on this side. Front, in, wide, in, back, in, wide, in, front, in. Keep going with that in your own time, focusing on this supporting leg. That's it, keep that control. Well done. Sorry, it's my belly rumbling. Nearly done. About even amount on both sides. And we'll come back. Hip width apart. Do a few just tiptoes, pulling the body tall. And coming back down. Nice and tall. And down. I'm going to hold. Down. Next one I'm going to hold for a little bit longer. Use that control. And we'll come down. We're going to come to the back of our mats. We're going to do a roll down. So re-find your kind of your neutralish position, feet hip width apart, body's tall, neutral pelvis. Chin tight to your chest. I'm going to roll the body forward, curling down each vertebrae at a time, keeping those knees soft as you take yourself to your hanging position, wherever feels comfortable for you. And just breathe and hang. We're going to roll back up, so tuck the tailbone, start stacking the vertebrae, pulling the body tall, all the way in that chest till you bring yourself nice and tall. Don't forget to unfold that last bit of upper body. I see a lot of people kind of curl up and then they kind of just stay here. They forget about the rest of their spine. We're going to go down again. Chin down, curl forward, knees soft. Take yourself to your hanging position. And roll back up. Same again, vertebrae by vertebrae, pulling the body tall. Chest open. Okay. We go down one more time, and this time we're going to come down onto all fours. If you want to challenge yourself, you can walk into a plank, or you can just come down onto all fours, whatever feels good for you. So chin down, roll forward, knees stay soft. And you walk your hands down, either into a plank or straight down. I'm just going to go straight down today into my box position. So box position is wrists underneath shoulders and shoulder width apart, knees underneath hips and hip width apart, and I'm going to keep my back nice and flat. So it's not dipping, it's not arching, it's nice and flat. So from here, I'm going to go straight into my Superman. So keeping my neck flat, I'm looking straight down at the floor. I'm going to take opposite arm, opposite leg up. While I'm here, I'm moving nice and slowly. I'm using my control, and I'm making sure my knees and my wrists come hip and shoulder width apart when they come back in. The knees have a tendency to want to come together, so make sure they don't do that. And alternating. As I'm lifting my leg and arm, I'm making sure my back's not dipping, it's staying nice and strong. Exhale the arm and leg away. Inhale in. I know this may feel a bit slow, but the slower we go, the more we use our muscles and our control rather than momentum, when you're just kicking backwards and forwards and the body doesn't really know what it's doing. If you go nice and slow, the rest of the body tries to stay nice and still, it really gets that core working. Making sure that pelvis isn't shifting from side to side. So as you bring your knee back in, you should feel nothing moving here. You shouldn't feel your knees going down and up. So keep going with that. Keep that control. Keep that breath flowing. That's it. Don't let those backs dip. Don't try and rush through this. If you need to reset and just make sure you're square, feel free. Make sure you're not walking yourself up your mat. Keep that control. Nearly done. A few more. Focus on that core, keeping it nice and still. Sorry, that's my belly still grumbling. And we're going to come down. We're going to rest down into child's pose. So bum down on your heels, stretch those arms forward, and you can let your head rest down. If you find child's pose uncomfortable, you can be up in cat pose instead, which is on all fours. Push up into the lower back, let the head hang, and it's a very similar sort of stretch. Whichever you find more comfortable. Few deep breaths into those ribs. And then we're going to come down onto our stomachs. If you know, or you've got a very thin mat, or you're on a harder floor, you might need a bit of extra padding for underneath your pelvis. But if you're on carpet or you've got a nice thick mat, you should be fine. So, lie down on our stomachs. I'm going to show you the full variation so you can see what we're trying to achieve, and then I can give you easier ones after. We're going to do swimming. The key for this one, otherwise your lower back will want to take over, is to keep your pubic mound here in your pelvis pressed into the mat. So this is mine not pressed, this is mine pressed. As you can see, as I'm pressing it, my glutes are engaging, which means my glutes are going to be working just as hard as my lower back, but hopefully it's not only my lower back trying to work. So I'm pressing down in. I'm looking straight down at the floor, but I've got my head and chest just slightly lifted. You don't want to be way up here, just enough so you're nice and straight. Both arms are going forward, thumbs are facing up, palms are facing in, and both legs are going to be coming up. I'm still pressing down, I'm still getting my glutes working. So swimming is tapping opposite arm and opposite leg. Your neutral position or your mid position is when they're all lifted, and it's the tap where you're working. This is one of those moves that looks fairly easy, but is fairly difficult. So, what I don't want you doing is having all four down and kind of pushing yourself up from the floor. That's why we have all four lifted, and it's the tap we're looking for. If doing all four is too much, either you can rest your legs down and just try with the arms, or you can rest your arms down and just try with the legs. Keep that pubic mound pressed into the floor and glutes working. I'm just going to continue on with the full variation if you're happy to do that. So, opposite arm, opposite leg, using that coordination. Similar to Superman, alternating each time. Keep that pubic mound pressed in. You want to go to about a 7 on your scale. So where you can feel the muscles burning, but when you rest down, they do melt away pretty much instantly. This is working our lower back, so don't expect to feel nothing in your lower back. You want to get to the kind of working pain, but not ouch, ouch pain. I'm not going to do this one for too long, because I know it is tricky, especially when you're doing it correctly. So we're going to rest down. Let the body just melt into the mat. Rest your shoulders, your neck, your back, your lower back, your glutes and your legs. Few deep breaths into the mat. In a push-up, back onto all fours, so back into your box position. So in your box, you're going to take your left leg out. You want your left leg in line with your right knee, your left foot in line with your right knee, sorry. Right hand in line with the right knee, and your right leg, your kneeling knee, to be nice and vertical, so it's not going to bend over to one side or the other, it is vertical. Your hand that's in line, your right hand, left foot out, right hand, my brain's not working here. Your right hand wants to be slightly further forward out of box position. Box position is underneath your shoulder, you want it slightly further forward. We're going to inhale up to the ceiling, we're going to exhale, thread the arm through. As you're threading the arm through, you can bend the supporting arm, But you thread the arm underneath, but look over the top of your shoulder. Otherwise we end up kind of curving in our spine. We want to keep it nice and long. So exhale as you thread through. Inhale as you draw open. Trying to keep that pelvis fairly still so it's not coming back as you're threading through. It's not pushing through as you're threading. Inhale, open. Exhale, thread. The more you bend the arm, the supporting arm, the harder it is. So this is a variation of our sword and the stone and our thread the needle. We're twisting in that thoracic spine, that central spine. Getting a lovely range of movement, working the arm. If it's too much on your hands, you can always bend your wrists or your fingertips instead. And we'll come down, we're going to swap over, so take the opposite leg out, foot in line with your knee, so right foot out, in line with the left knee, left hand in line with the left knee, keeping that back nice and flat. We're going to inhale open, exhale thread through. That's it, keep going with that. Really working those shoulders and that elbow. Slight stretch down through the inner thigh and groin. And come back onto all fours. We're going to rest down into child's pose again, lengthen that spine. And up. We're going to come onto our sides now. So this is where you want your blocks for your head. If you want a bit of extra padding underneath your hip, if you know you've got sore hips, or if you've got a hard floor that you're on, you can grab a little mini mat or a towel or a bit of blanket folded up to put underneath you. And then you're going to need your other block or a ball or just something to rest your leg on. Preferably this sort of height, so it wants to be roughly hip height. You don't want it so high that your hips pointing up to the ceiling or so low that it's down on the floor. Just whatever you have to grab. So we're going to be lying on our sides. Our top leg is going to be on whatever you have, your ball, your block, but just something to keep the hips stacked. Without it, kind of draws our pelvis down. You can see it's curving my spine there. We try to work in nice alignment in my classes. So legs stacked, body nice and long. Shoulders stacked, if you're not sure where that is, if you take your top hand and put it on top of your bottom hand and you know they're stacked, then you can always move this hand to a more comfortable position. Bottom leg, the foot is going to be in line with the head, so it's not too far forward, not too far back. And even though the leg is straight, we're not bending the knee, you don't want it to be locked in completely, you just want it soft and straight. We're going to be lifting and lowering this inner thigh. So make sure, just do a couple of those, make sure you are comfy. If you're feeling it in your lower back, scoop your tailbone under, get those glutes engaging again. This leg should be nice and relaxed. You shouldn't feel like this leg's having to push into whatever it's resting on. Allow that weight to push down into the pelvis. We're going to do a bit of a count for these. So we're going to lift the bottom leg. Foot can be relaxed. Lift the bottom leg for 1, lower. Lift for 1, 2, lower. Lift for 1, 2, 3, lower. Lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, lower. Lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lower. Lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 4, 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 2, 1, lower. And lift for 1, lower. You want to make sure that if you're feeling your back, tailbone scooped. And now we're going to flex the foot, so heel down, toes up. We're going to lift for 1, lower. Lift for 1, 2, lower. Lift for 1, 2, 3, lower. Lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, lower. Lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lower. Lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 4, 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 2, 1, lower. And lift for 1, lower. So you should be starting to feel this in that inner thigh. We'll do a couple more counts. So foot soft again. Lift as high as you can. And lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lower. Foot flex. Last one. You can do this nice and high. Lift for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest down. Well done. Take this block away, or whatever you have, take it out of the way. You're going to bend the legs. You want the knees quite bent, so they're not too much here. They are bent. Feet in line with your bum. If ever you're not sure where that is, I like to lift mine up and think, yep, they're in line with my bum. Keeping the hips stacked, we're going to be doing our clowns. So our clowns is this knee opening and closing. Few things to look out for. One is that as you open, this pelvis isn't rolling backwards and forwards. You want to just keep it still, so it's just that leg that's moving. Two, if you want to make it a little bit easier, if you find keeping your toes and your heels just too tight, you feel you can't get much movement there. If you want to make it easier, you can take your toes together, but allow your heels to stay off, so you get a bit more rotation in that leg. Keep the pelvis still. If you would like to make it harder, you can have your feet up in the air and open and close here. This does feel like you have a bigger range of movement, but it's also getting the bottom leg to work a little bit as well as the top. So choose whichever level you want. Level 1 is feet and heels together, opening and closing. Then you can have your heels off to give you a bit more movement, or you can have your feet up. Keep going with whichever one you choose until you're at your 8 on your scale. So a really nice bit of burn in your bum, but when you rest down, it does melt away. So we're working our glutes, our bum muscles, our abductors, our muscles on the outer side of the leg. It's good for strengthening around that pelvis. So keep going with that. Feeling those bum muscles working. Get to your 8 on your scale, whatever that is. Using that control, try not to rush it, and try to have a nice smooth movement, opening and closing. Start to judge when you're not in class with me. Normally I can start looking at people's faces and people start to look at me like, please can we finish now, my leg is burning. But I'll keep going. You can always stop when you need to stop, or you can always pause it if you want to carry on longer than I am. And I'm going to rest down. Give it a rub if it is a little bit achy. Feel free to pause it and carry on if you want to do a bit more. We're going to kick this top leg forward to the floor in front of us. Foot can be soft unless you want to stretch your sciatic nerve a little bit more, then you can flex this foot. Then slide your top hand over your bottom and open all the way up behind you. thoracic spine, opening in that chest and letting the head go round too. And just close and open in this stretch with what feels good for your body. And close. So bend the legs. We're going to get ready for our 5 side press ups. If you want to do more, feel free. Bottom arm across onto the ribs. Top hand comes in front. We lean into this top hand. If you want, if you know your elbows aren't the strongest, you can always hold on to the back of this arm or this elbow to give you a bit of extra support. We're going to take a nice breath in, and we're going to exhale, push up. Can you see as I'm pushing up, I'm not leading with my head. I'm keeping that gap between my chin and my shoulder. I'm not letting it pull up first. I'm using this arm. Try not use that bottom elbow. We're going to do 5 full side press ups in total. Once you've done your 5, you can bring yourself up and into mermaid. So just bring that arm over, pointing towards the feet. If it's too tight in your knees, you can always take this top leg straight, and you'll feel it gives you a little extra movement here. So just bending in. And we'll come over. We're going to swivel over, so slide your blocks to the other side. Grab your ball or pillow, whatever you've got to rest your knee on this side. And we're going to do the same all over again on this side. So hips stacked, shoulders stacked, leg on your ball, your block, whatever you have at home. Pelvis nice and strong. Tuck that tailbone, stop that lower back from taking over. We'll be lifting and lowering this leg, so just do a couple to make sure that you're in a nice comfy position. And we're going to lift, foot soft, lift for 1, lower, lift for 1, 2, lower, lift for 1, 2, 3, lower, lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, lower, lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lower, lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lower, flex the foot, heel down. If the back's hurting, scoop the bum, keep this top leg relaxed, and lift for 1, lower, lift for 1, 2, lower, lift for 1, 2, 3, lower, lift for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, lower, lift for, I think I missed 4, so do 1, 2, 3, 4, lower. Lift for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 4, 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 3, 2, 1, lower. Lift for 2, 1, lower. And final one, and down. We'll do the slightly longer ones now, so foot soft. We're going to lift for 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep that leg nice and high. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Lower. We're going to flex the foot. Don't let the leg drop. Lift for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower. Well done. Take your block out of the way. Bend both the legs, feet in line with the bum, keeping these hips stacked. And we're going to do our clams again on this side. So opening and closing. Same again, if you want to keep your toes and your heels together, feel free. If you want to lift your heels off and open and close here to give you a bit of extra movement. If you want to make it harder, you can lift those feet up and open and close. Gives you a bigger range of movement, but does get both the legs working harder. So choose whichever level you want. Opening and closing. Get to your 8 on your scale. Feel it in the bum. Making sure you're not rolling back in the pelvis. The pelvis should stay still. And keep going with that. Try and do about an even amount on both sides. the heaters on today because they're quite noisy and they're quite like a whirry sound, so I didn't want it to block out my voice. It's a bit echoey in here anyway, so I thought it would be too much with the heaters on. Hence why I'm trying to cover up my cold hands with my sleeves. So keep going, keep breathing through that burn. Get to your 8 on your scale. Keeping that movement nice and smooth. Feel free to stop before, or if you want to pause me, to keep going before the next move you can. Couple more. And rest, give it a rub. We're going to kick the leg forward. Same again, if you want to stretch that sciatic nerve a bit more, you can flex the foot. Slide the top hand over and past and open all the way up back behind you. Twisting in that spine. Closing and opening in your own time. If you want to hold open for a little bit longer, feel free. And close. Bend the legs, get ready for your side press ups. Bottom arm across, top hand in front, leaning in, exhaling up, try not to lead with that head. Down and up in your own time. Maybe 5 or more. If you want to do more, feel free, I'm not going to stop you. Once you've done your 5, you're going to come up into mermaid. Bring that arm all the way over. Same again, if you need to straighten that leg, make it a little bit easier, you can. And then up. We're going to slide our blocks out of the way, and we're going to come to sitting on our bums. So if you need an extra towel or any padding underneath your bum, if you're on a hard floor, grab one. Sitting up tall, feet are roughly hip width apart, same as our knees. Our body's nice and tall. If you know you've got particularly weak lower back and do anything where you lean back slightly irritates it, feel free to put a pillow or something just to help support you a little bit more. So sitting up tall, we're just going to lean back just slightly, just so we're off centre, instead of being here and pulling back. This is where we're doing our arm routine, so I hope you remembered. Arms forward, we'll start with our right arm. We're going to go open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, right arm on top, row to your right, row to your left, and I'm going to do the same on the left. Can you see how I'm opening and pulling back, that I am leaning back a little bit more, just to work that little bit harder, but do what feels good for you. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, row, row, and again. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, on top, row, row. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, on top, row, row. I'm going to call it out one more time. Open, close, bow and arrow, fire it, up, down, on top, row, row. You're going to do it on your own now. I'll be doing it. I want you to remember what you're doing. Getting that brain working. Keep that chest lifted, make sure you're not curving down. Keep that breath flowing. If you need to stop, feel free, and if you want to pause to keep going, you can as well. Or you can just lean back further to make it harder. But keep that chest lifted, don't let it collapse. And rest down. down. You should have done about even amount on both sides. If you haven't, quickly do one more on the other side. We're going to stretch over these legs. Give ourselves a quick breather. Really lengthening that spine. We're going to come down onto our backs. Depending on how you see what you're viewing this on, you might want to just watch while I show you this first move, because it is a couple different movements in one. Another routine, I love a routine in the coordination class. So, we'll be on our backs. You'll be doing a few pelvic tilts to begin with, but I'll come back to that just in case you are sat up watching. Lower back down, TAs engaged. We're going to lift one leg into tabletop. Tabletop's 90 degrees. We're going to tap it like we normally do, making sure the knee's not bending. So I'm going to tap it down, my knee's not bending, I'm just taking that leg down and back up. We're going to do a knee drop, so the knee's going to drop wide. You're going to take it to where you can, but you don't feel like your whole pelvis is rocking around. You want to keep it nice and strong. And back up. And then we're going to thread the foot through, drop the foot to the floor, and let this knee drop open. This is our hip flexor stretch, so you should feel a nice stretch through the hip flexors here at the front of your pelvis. And back to tabletop. So I'll show you again. So it's a tap, a lift, a knee drop, a lift, a thread through, and a drop. Breathe, and come back up. So we're going to do 5 sets on one side, 5 sets on the other side. If you haven't started, you're going to come down and do a few pelvic tilts. If you have started, that's fine, you can carry on. Lower back down, lifting. So doing 5 sets on each side. Tap, drop, thread, relax, and come up. So keep going with that. Once you've done 5 on both sides, feel free to just carry on doing 5 and 5, 5 and 5, as long as you want. A few things to note: when you're doing the leg thread through and the knee drop, make sure your back's not arching. You want to keep it, that sacrum, that back of your pelvis pressed in to feel that full stretch in your pelvis. Keep that control. Don't rush. You want it to be nice and smooth, but controlled the whole time. You don't want it to be clicking and clunking into each kind of position. Doing 5 sets on each side. If you're ready at the end of your 10, feel free to go on to your next set of 5 and 5. So instead of just working our pelvis and our sagittal plane, so just forward, backwards, we're working a bit transversely as well. We're taking that leg a little bit wide, we're adding in a bit of a twist. So we're strengthening all the muscles around the pelvis, not just in that forward, back, walking motion. Make sure that lower back is still down. Just keep alternating 5 and 5 and 5 and 5. I'll let you know when we're nearing the end, just so then you can make sure you end on a roughly even amount. If you are finding this particularly easy and you're like, oh, we're nearly the end, but I'm still not feeling this at all, although this isn't necessarily a hard working move, it's nice to get that movement. But if you do want to make it a hard working move, you can lift the opposite leg into tabletop and just keep it still. Don't let it move as you're doing the same routine. And then just do the same on the other side. And back down. So, make sure you've done about even amount on both sides. If you haven't, quickly do a few more now, or you can pause it. We'll do a few pelvic tilts. 3 stretches. So push the lower back down. We're going to come into our dead bug position. So dead bug position is both legs in tabletop, like this, then mimicking with our arms. So this is our dead bug position. Our arms are 90 degrees, straight out, palms facing towards each other, but they're shoulder width apart. So keeping your lower back down. So from here, we're doing a little bit of coordination again. Your whole body is staying nice and still, apart from the opposite arm, opposite leg that you're moving. And then bring it in, and then alternate. But can you see how the rest of my body stays still? The higher up you take the legs and the arms, the easier it is. The lower down to the floor you take them, the harder it is. Whichever option you choose is fine, but keep that lower back down, keep those TAs engaged. Really try not, I see a lot of when people take this one out, this arm comes down and this leg kind of drops. You want to stay nice and square. If it's feeling quite hard in the lower back, you can put a little pillow underneath your sacrum, the flat part of your pelvis here, just to give you a bit of extra support. Or if you're just really struggling, you can just go straight out, straight in with both arms, both legs. A little bit less hard on the brain. But the reason why this one is so good and a little bit tricky is because we're almost upside down. So when we're stood up or sat up, we know how gravity pulls us straight down. We know what that feels like on our muscles and on our body. But when we're up this way, we're slightly disorientated. We're not quite sure actually where we need to be working, what we need to be doing, because gravity's pulling us down in a different way to normal. This is good training for if we end up on the moon. You need to work your body without having gravity pulling you a certain way. Keep that lower back down. This is a hard one. Really gets that core working. Keep those TAs engaged. And get to your 7 or an 8 on your scale, whatever that is. You can hug the knees in and rest down. If your legs are kind of clunking as you go down, if there's no pain, don't worry. It's probably because you're tight in some of your hip flexor muscles. We're going to stretch them out in a minute. If it is painful, then don't carry on. Hug the knees in and just have a little break. We are going to hug the knees in now, gently rock side to side, and then we'll do a couple stretches. So bring the legs down. Okay, first stretch is going to be our hip flexor stretch, similar to what we did a minute ago. So you're going to press the lower back down, the back of your sacrum down, thread one leg through, and let that knee drop open. Keeping the body nice and long and letting that leg really just collapse down towards the floor. You don't want to be pulling it, you just want to let the weight of the leg push down. Keeping the sacrum down. The lower back will come off the floor a little bit, that's fine, as long as it's not kind of arched right up. Keep that spine tall. If you don't feel any stretch at all and you are feeling like, yeah, I'm completely relaxed, or you might be so flexible that the leg is completely flat on the floor and it can't go any further, you can either thread the leg through even more or pull the foot up closer towards your bum, see if that gets a bit more in your hip flexors. Breathe, relax into that stretch, trying to keep that sacrum down, body nice and long. We're going to realign, so come up, realign the pelvis, do the same on the other side, thread the foot through, drop that knee open, trying to keep that sacrum down, body nice and long, breathe and relax. And up. We're going to do our figure of 4 stretch now, so take one leg across the other, let that knee drop open. The foot that's on the floor, either you can walk up into tippy toes and push this knee away, see if that's enough stretch in your glutes. If not, you can hold on to the back of the leg. When you're here, make sure that chin isn't pointing up, but you're keeping that nose pointing up, and chin fairly tucked. Breathe and relax into this stretch. You want to completely relax this bent leg. You can pull a little bit more on the leg you're holding on to. Gently rest down. hold onto the back of the leg. Same again, breathe and relax into that stretch. And rest down again. Realign, we're going to hug one knee tight to our chest. We're going to stretch the other leg away. Try and get that calf muscle all the way down to the floor. And then you're going to point and flex both the feet. Really pulling that spine nice and long. And we'll swap over. Hug the other knee, stretch the other leg, calf to the floor, point and flex. And bring them in. Rest down, a few pelvic tilts. We're going to bring ourselves up into a seated position, however is comfortable. If you want to roll like a ball and bring yourself up like this, you can. If you want to roll onto your side and just come up, or however is comfortable for you to come up to sitting. Sitting up tall, you're going to straighten both your legs. You're going to take your right leg over your left. You're going to hold onto that right leg with your left hand, and you're going to pull yourself open to the right, back behind you. Keeping that body nice and tall, twisting round. The more you pull this knee across, the more you're stretching your glutes and your piriformis muscle. Your piriformis muscle is the one that normally pinches on that sciatic nerve when it gets a bit inflamed. And realign, swap over. Left leg over right, pull with the right hand, open back to your left. Sitting up nice and tall and just breathing into that stretch. And realign. Sit however is comfortable, if that's legs straight, bent, crossed, however you want to be, whatever you find comfortable. Pull the body tall, we're going to roll the shoulders back a couple times. And bring them down, head back, we're going to look side to side. And I'm going to do ear to shoulder. Again, just letting it hang. And take a few breaths there, let the weight of your head hang down, and then up and over. Keep these shoulders relaxed, don't let them creep up. And then tall, chin tight to your chest. Keeping the chin down on your chest, you're going to take a deep breath into the back. Keeping the chin down, you're going to exhale, pull the shoulders down, pull the chin down more. Chin stays down, deep breath into the ribs. And then you're going to look up as you're exhaling, pulling that spine tall. And centre. Pull the spine tall at the crown of your head, shoulders stay relaxed. We'll do a few breaths into our ribs, so laterally. So really feel those lungs stretching out those ribs as you take nice deep breaths in and out. And relax up. We're all done, well done. Make sure you drink plenty of water. I know I always say it in class, but it's true. You need to drink all the water just to help flush out any toxins we release and also help stop any achy muscles. Hopefully we've given your brain a bit of a good workout, doing all different coordinations and routines to remember. Feel free to revisit this class as many times as you want. I always say it's beneficial to do Pilates 2 or 3 times a week if you can. I know a lot of you come twice a week, but if you could do an extra class once a week, that's amazing. Or if you only come once a week, try to do maybe this class or another class I sent you just one more time when you have a free few minutes. Have a lovely time, and I will see you all soon. Bye!